Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday, everybody. My name is Andy Elliott. I'm a realtor here in Williamson County, frozen Williamson County, Tennessee. And I'm with my best bud, Rodney Wilds, who's a loan officer with the First Bank, also in Williamson County, Tennessee. Rodney, how are you, sir?
Fantastic. Surviving this cold weather for the last couple of days, but other than that, it's good.
You know what? It is, I find it refreshing. I'm a Colorado guy, and there's just something about it, man. There was snowflakes in the air. Jeez.
Snowflakes, little snowflakes Monday. Yeah, it was. It wasn't that bad. It's just windy though. It was our first day even close to being this weather. So, and it come in so windy. It was tough to be out there for a long time.
Yeah, and especially like if you're trying to golf. I have a friend who lives on the golf course, the corner. Well, you know him, Ben Allen. You did his loan. What is it? Forest Hills, Forest Green. What is it? Forest, whatever. Down off of
Yeah.
Culpeper, Dallas. No, what is it?
It y- Goodness, it's the only public golf course in Williamson County.
Yeah,
Um,
and he lives right on like
yeah,
a
he
corner where
lives
you
like
turn.
on I believe it's a 17 tee box.
Yeah, and he can go out on his deck and he's looking at these guys, which is the reason
Yeah.
he bought the place. But it was like that cold, and his significant other couldn't believe there's people out there golfing, and it was like
Yeah.
33 degrees. It's
It's
crazy.
Forest. Used to be Forest Crossing. It's something else now.
Yeah, it's like me. I forget about that kind of stuff. It's the weather. So if you're not from Tennessee, if you happen to be from California, you're probably not affected by this much. I wanted to make a little bit of an announcement before we get started. I have launched a free course. It's on, and you can see the link in the chat. It's a 15 video course about real estate, taking you through the whole process, and it's free. And if you're watching this and you want to learn about how the new process works with the new lawsuit and that kind of stuff, hey Angie, how are you, girl? If you'd like to learn some stuff from somebody that's been around for a couple of minutes, the course is free to you, and there's a link. So click on that, and you can go through that course. And I'm really proud of it. It took a long time and a lot of effort to put together. So I hope you enjoy that.
Nice.
Again, it's free. And I'm going to try to talk Rodney into doing one for lending too, because everybody needs to know about the money. All right. So here we go. Trying to get started. Today the theme is, and I thought this was pretty interesting, that the National Association of Realtors once a year puts out what's called a profile of home buyers and sellers. And under normal circumstances, it's like $150 for this profile because it's exhaustive. It's that kind of thing where you would think that as much money as we pay into these guys that they would offer for free, but they don't. But anyway, it's a profile of home buyers and sellers, and this year it is free, probably as a penance for what's going on. And what it made me think of was, as people are going through the process, and we know the real estate is, at least from my side, it's a merry-go-round. People get on for as long as they need to, meaning they get on, they start looking at houses, figure out their finances, and either they buy or they don't. And when they don't, they hop off and they're gone for a while, and then they hop back on, and that's the merry-go-round. It's just off and on, and that's how we get to close to 5 million home sales per year. We just keep recycling people that are on the market and off the market. And what it made me think of was, none of us knows it for a buyer or seller. What part are we playing in that whole piece, that national real estate piece? And so I got to thinking, when Rodney and I are talking about the market, the real estate market, its ups and downs, that kind of stuff, who is that? Well, it's you and me and anybody that buys and sells real estate or investors. We are the market. And so I thought it'd be interesting to tap into this profile of home buyers, sellers, and find out who exactly, what our makeup is in the market and how it's changed. So does that seem reasonable, Rodney? Or is that
Yeah, it sounds good.
sounds like a
Fantastic.
stretch? Here we go. So here it is. It's the profile, and like I said, it's normally pretty spendy, but they're offering it for free this year. The housing market is increasingly split between extremes. Equity rich, all cash buyers are at an all time high, while cash strapped first time buyers are at a record low. That's interesting as we go into this. Affordability challenges are keeping newcomers on the sidelines, while buyers with stronger finances continue to dominate, according to the National Association of Realtors' newly released profile. And we talk about that a lot, that the key to being able to buy, at least as far as I'm concerned, and we're looking at it from a data point, is for anybody that's looking to buy a house, the number one criteria, in my opinion, is you have to be prepared financially, personally. That's a reasonable expectation, isn't it, Ronnie?
Yeah, I mean, anytime I discuss, when you're talking about buying or whatever, I mean, that's the basis of the foundation is that it's affordable to you, and something that you can maintain for more, for the for the duration of the term. So
Yeah, yeah. And Ronnie and I have a client in common, and this is not judging. I'm just saying that if you're a home buyer and you've gone through this, understand it's normal. I had a buyer come on, I call it coming online. He and his fiance got excited about housing and everything. They're looking into buying a house. That's the way they phrased it. I think it was in April. And he was looking for a while. I was sending in properties, and in this particular circumstance, after a few months, they bailed and they decided they're going to rent for another year. Is that wise? Well, maybe, maybe not, but for them, it's their best choice. It's not for me to decide. But what they did was they dipped their toe in the water. They took a look at the market. They weren't comfortable with the way that it was. That was their first exposure to it, which happens. It could be a little overwhelming. And so they got off the merry-go-round that I was talking about before, and they'll be back. Next time they'll be emboldened a little bit because it won't be a brand new experience. So to move on. So unfolding in the housing market is a tale of two cities. We're seeing buyers with significant housing equity making larger down payments and all cash offers, while first-time buyers continue to struggle to enter the market. In that particular example, just a real quick anecdote, I find over the years people from New York, Chicago, and particularly California, when they move from there to here, there's such a value imbalance. I mean, you can get, it's a $2 million for 1,800 square feet if you're close to the beach, and they sell it out there, and they come in and they'll cash out and buy an $800,000 house that's smokes the dimensions, the stats on their original. So that's where a lot of cash buyers come from, in my opinion. So it talks about there's 10 things that that they're going to point out about the buyer market now, the buyer and seller. So first-time buyers sink to an all-time low. This is critical. First-time buyers now make up just 21% of the market, the lowest share since NAR began tracking back in 1981. Before 2008, they consistently accounted for 40% of home sales. Man, limited inventory and affordability challenges have pushed many out of the market. The historically low share of the first-time buyers underscores the real-world consequences of a housing market starved for affordability inventory. That's a big deal. I'm going to tell you, the most fun that I have is with first-time buyers. It's because they're just so excited, and I mean, everything looks good to them. They're fun. So those who do not buy, those who do buy are older too. The median age of first-time buyers now has climbed to a record 40 years old, up from the late 20s in the 1980s. High rents and student loan debt make savings for a down payment increasingly difficult. For generations, access to home ownership has been the primary way Americans build wealth and the cornerstone of the American dream, says so. Delayed or denied home ownership until age 40 instead of 30 could mean losing roughly $150,000 in equity on a typical starter home. I mean, that's really That's an important distinction. What do you say about the student? What's the deal with student loans now, Rodney? Is that count against their debt? How does that work now?
It still does. It goes against their what they can qualify for, and more probably more than anything, it sucks their resources because as soon as they get out of college, it's like instead of saving for a house or saving for a car, they're paying off student debt. And so a lot of their, expendable, they have a lot of people don't have the whatever you call it, the savings that you would have if you haven't gotten student loans. So
That's just, maybe they're gonna. I don't know. That's a tough one, and you're hoping that the education accounts for higher wages, but sometimes that doesn't happen. To finish, FHA and VA loan usage has dipped. FHA loans alone have fallen from 55 in 2009 to 28 and 25%. You were telling me that conventionals far outweigh FHA loans these days. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's surprising though that it's went from 55, that was basically half of our market, down to just 28%. I mean, for us, Andy, in Tennessee, in Davidson and surrounding counties that we're in, with the price point going up so much, I mean, the median house prices, a lot of these neighborhoods you go into, you're buying 7, 8, 900,000.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, that's more typical of a conventional buyer, with a little bit of a down payment. So it's wild how the conventional, but you can see it, like this average, this list, higher down payments, the people are older. That plays right into less FHA and VA purchases.
Absolutely, and also I'll ask this question. I'll get off this one, but because such a large chunk of the market, even though it's shrinking, is first-time home buyers, do you think that because lending has done such a good job after the Dodd-Frank Act, where really you guys have gotten super good at qualifying people and really giving loans to people that actually can afford them, and that's no judgment there. Because people are so much better prepared, doesn't that make conventional loans more attractive to them versus FHA, like for MIP in particular, I suppose?
I don't. You still run the same system. It's still a qualified mortgage for FHA and VA. I will say that I think one of the biggest factors in foreclosure is when you start going down in down payment, right? And then you couple that with credit scores. So conventional is going to force the higher credit scores into conventional, and the lower credit scores into FHA, just because there's a huge pricing adjustment for conventional. So conventional is going to get the cream of the crop. So their foreclosure numbers are going to be, a lot better, if that's saying that correctly.
Yeah, I think that they're heading for disaster or not, is what you're kind of saying.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think we're heading for any disaster, because it's, home appreciation may be at a 0 or 1 or 2%, or very small, or it could even be negative in some parts. But it's not enough to it's not enough like back when it was a disaster, is when people didn't have any money into the home, and all they seen was negative appreciation. So they walked away from owing more than the house is worth. And we don't see that a lot today.
Yeah, and I think that I mischaracterized what I was trying to say. I'm just saying that, and we'll get off this, but the conventional loans have a higher success rate. That's all.
Yes.
Long term, that's all. I'm not.
Well, appreciate you leading me down a different road there. No, I'm just kidding.
It's been fun. Thanks a lot. So number 2 on that is all cash home purchases have reached an all-time high. It is pretty amazing how much cash there is out there. But I will tell you, It's a little bit surprising. Hey, oh yeah, we're gonna get to that. Hi, Philip. Hi, Wendy. All cash. There's a lot of cash buyers out there these days. There's a lot of money floating around, and if real estate was in, you watch what's going to happen if the prices start to drop. There's going to be some cash purchases going on. So we'll just read this real quick. All cash home purchases have reached an all-time high, averaging 26% over the last year. By comparison, between '03 and 2010, fewer than 1 in 10 buyers paid all cash on a home sale. Cash buyers may be leveraging the equity from a previous sale, but with rising interest rates and tight lending conditions, they're finding a distinct advantage in the market by being able to bypass those mortgages. Fewer rules. No mortgage, fewer rules. So the number higher down payments, that's what they're finding. That's how they're breaking this down. So down payments continue to rise for both first-time and repeat buyers, reaching levels not seen in decades. In 2025, the median down payment among all buyers was 19%, 10% for first-time buyers, and 23% for repeat. That marks the highest median down payment for first-time buyers since '89 and the highest repeat buyers since '03. And you're finding that to be true in your examples, what you work with, Rodney?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it is. It's like everybody's equity rich right now. A lot of people have a lot of equity in their, and actually, I see, they're still putting large down payments down, but they're also, becoming debt free and doing other things with that money as they're, investing some of it and things like that as well.
Mm.
They're not all putting it back into a new home, and it's even you know what I'm saying, but it's still showing up like they are, in these stats, like. The down payment is higher down payments. It's increasing, and they're doing other stuff with it. It's just, to me, shows there's a lot of equity out there.
Mm-hmm. Personal savings remain the most common source for down payment funds among first-time buyers, with 59% relying on savings, while 26% tapped into financial assets as 401s, IRAs, and stocks, and 22% received help from relatives or friends through a gift or a loan. Among repeat buyers, more than half, 54%, used proceeds from the sale of a previous home to finance their rent. I remember back 10 years ago, or so, it seemed like, and maybe it was the category of people I was working with, that every other buyer was getting family gifts.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like that was the most, can I get money from my mom? I think so. That's a Rodney question. Make sure it's sourced. That's all I knew to say, really, was make sure that it comes from a place that they can call legitimate, right? Something like that. I'm going to skip number 4 because this is from, it's realtor.com, and so they're always kind of high on agents. I believe in agency as well, but it sounds like self-promotion, so I'm not going to do that. FSBOs hit a record low. That's especially in this market, what's going on with, I talk about price cuts it seems like every week, because that is an ongoing thing, and that is a leading indicator, in my opinion, on what's happening in the market. It's telling us that it's predicting the future. And yesterday alone, which typically Monday is a little bit hotter in that kind of activity, there were 12, and my search is Williamson County, 12 price cuts. There was 12, just that I'm getting notified for. Now there's going to be more, but that's a heck of a number. And when that happens, for sale by owners typically don't fare well because they're competing with the pros, and so only 5% of homes over the past year sold for sale by owner. It's an all-time low, while a record 91% of sellers used an agent. NAR's data show for FSBOs don't typically fare as well, selling for significantly less than agent-assisted homes. A FSBO median price, $360 versus $425 for. I keep seeing something. Oh, that's what that is.
Sorry.
I kept seeing this orange flash, and I thought, and my system's going nuts. The most common motivations for homeowners to sell by owner include selling to a friend or relative or avoid paying agent commissions fee. I'm going to say number 3 is probably the most prominent. So repeat buyers are flexing their financial power. The median, remember, these are 10 things that were revealed by this report. This is telling us who we are in terms of a market. The median down payment among the group climbed to 23%, and nearly 1 of 3 repeat buyers are paying all cash, sidestepping financing altogether. Years of equity growth have supercharged their buying power, and that's pretty cool. In just the last 5 years alone, homeowners have gained an average $140,000 in wealth, according to the NAR's research. Good. I'm one of that was significantly more than that because we live in Williamson County. I thought this was an interesting thing: is who is the market? Fewer households with children are buying homes. Remember we were talking about family creation a couple of weeks ago, Rodney? That
Yes.
People are sticking with their parents and having children later and stuff. I wonder if this is a part of that. The share of buyers with children under 18 has dropped to a historic low, just 24% of recent buyers this is a big deal, compared to 58% in 1985. Among those households, it goes into a bunch of statistics. It's kind of boring, but as households with children decline, the makeup of home buyers is shifting. Married couples also fell to 61% of all buyers as singles gained ground. Isn't that interesting? I mean, remember when you and I are growing up, it was the nuclear family. That was, man, it's just different now. Single women comprised 21% of buyers, and single men accounted for 9%, which makes total sense to me. Together, those trends point to a clear move away from the traditional family household and toward a more diverse range of homes. Next one is home buyers and sellers are getting older. We already covered that. The median age of the first-time buyer is 40, a record high, while repeat buyers rose to a median age of 62. And I keep asking you these questions because you have your finger on the pulse of the market. Have you discovered, you and your LOs, discovered first-time buyers to be this older generation, being 40s and stuff?
I wouldn't have guessed it was that old, right? But as I've aged, and gone through the business, it's like I do a lot of business with the people the same age as me. It's kind of weird. It's like I've always done that. Like but I haven't I knew the age is getting older, but the 40 is shocking.
For a
40
first-time
is
buyer.
shocking for a first-time home buyer. And like you pointed out earlier, it's well over $100,000 of equity that they're not earning. That 10 years that they've missed. I guess they've equated to 140,000 or whatever that. Waiting 10 years. That's not cool. That's not good at all.
And the question that I have is, when somebody is that age, I don't know. This is just a peek behind the curtain for anybody that's watching. When you're in the real estate industry, there's a group of people that really know what they're doing. I've got people, won't mention any names, but they know what they're doing in terms of real estate. And then there's another group of people that will come in and real estate's not their thing. They've never bought a house before, and they're coming in from scratch. And so my question is, for these older folks, because I haven't experienced it this way, do they come in quite as green, I'll use that term, not a bad thing, as like the 25 and 25-year-olds? Do you think that they have gotten an education just by being around?
Sure. Yes. Some of I can remember some of my friends buying at a little bit later in age than 24, 25, whatever, and they're definitely not like I think when you say the first time home buyer, the young couple,
Yep.
the one of them's she might be pregnant, and that sort of thing, versus a 35-year-old that's making 350 and buying a $900,000 first house.
Yep. Yep.
Um, yeah, it's a lot different. The conversations are different. The hand holding's different. The whole thing's different. It's a different, yes.
That's a great way that's the hand holding, because that's the point that I was trying to make. I agree with you. So number 9 on the list, we're almost done, is the home buyers are planning to stay put for longer than ever. Now the advice, it's going back to what it used to be. In the last 5 or 6 years, 4 or 5 years, you were able to tell somebody, if you buy a house, if you stay 2 or 3 years, if the market stayed like it was, you'd be all right. If you had to sell, you wouldn't be that bad off. Before that, pre-pandemic, back in 2015, the advice we always gave, and this was the Terry DeSelms thing, 5 to 7 years. If you're going to stay 5 to 7 years, you can probably break even if you're going to sell again. And that's the typical rotation, with the loan. I don't care if it's 15 or 30, it's 5 to 7 years. Well, now, with the way things are going so slow, it's back to the at least 7 years. Home buyers are planning to stay put longer. The median expected tenure in a purchase home is now 15 years. I don't know that's pretty far out there, with 28% of buyers declaring it'll be their forever home. Not. And they never intend to move. That ain't happening. 4 years and they're like, get me out of this place. Finally, new home, and this is still going on. And I'm sure as a lender, you get promotions from builders, Rodney.
Not a whole lot. A lot of them have their own lending and things like that. We have our own builder products that we introduce to our builders.
Yeah. Well, more buyers are tempted to buy. This is number 10, and we're all done. More buyers are tempted to buy new, with the share of new home purchases rising slightly to 16%, matching a level that hasn't been seen since 2006. Meanwhile, existing home purchases decreased slightly to 84%. Interesting. Builders over the last year have been ramping up incentives. I am telling you they are, such as price reductions and mortgage rate buydowns to attract more buyers. Buyers drawn to new construction sites to avoid renovations or major repair issues, and to have the ability to customize design features. For buyers favoring existing homes, they point to perception of better overall value, lower price, and greater charm. Charm is just another word for old, usually, and character of the housing stock. So I tell you what, if somebody's, I don't know if you've found this to be the case, but when I'm showing houses, and the inventory these days, sellers have gotten to the point where they have to work pretty hard to make sure that that house is polished and nice and show ready, move in ready, that kind of stuff. But when you're showing houses, and they say, "Can we go look at a new one?" Sure, you're getting less house, but damn, they're clean and they're nice, and it's like, oh God, honey,
Yeah.
they fall in love pretty quick with that, and if you're not careful, that's the way they're gonna go. God, do you deal? I think we were just talking about that. Do you deal? Is this a percentage about right for you guys? 16 and 84 existing versus new construction.
I haven't looked at it, but it's seems like it's a little low for new construction. It used to be a little bit more. First time home buyer and new construction was the high majority of all the business, and now it's definitely not there anymore.
Yeah, it's new construction is a strange thing, man. I'm telling you, it really is. But anyway. So to finish that article, and thanks for letting me go through that. It was a little longer than normal, but I just thought, for anybody that's looking at homes, this is who we are as a market,
Yeah.
and so I just thought it was interesting, the lower numbers of first-time buyers, the older age of first-time is pretty interesting.
40 years old for a first time home buyer.
Damn.
62 repeat buyer. Think about that.
God, I mean, you're 7 years, 5 years from Medicare,
Yeah,
and you're buying a
yeah,
house. So that's,
yeah.
hey, I'm on to
Your
it.
second one, yeah, right. I mean, it's yeah. I mean, yeah, it's definitely yeah, it's
Yeah,
kind of wild.
it is kind of wild. You know what time it is, Rodney? You know
Let's
what
do it.
time it is. Oh, it looks like he left.
I did the riff. Let's
Rodney.
do it. All right, let me pull it up here on mine. You heard it here first. Um, this is the reality check of all reality checks. 50-year mortgages. The illusion of affordability in housing is just another middleman play. Um, Awful decision, in my opinion. Sure, the 50-year mortgage sounds like a fix for affordability, lower monthly payments, easier approvals, more access. But but here's what actually happens: those similar payments will immediately be offset by inflated home price. Brokers and agents will reprice listings overnight, telling buyers they can now afford more home. Meanwhile, no one even holds a 30-year loan until maturity anymore. They refinance or sell it within 12 years, so lifetime interest numbers are theoretical. What does this mean if transfer perceived affordability into pricing power for the middleman, brokers, agents, and lenders, who take percentages off of non-bloated base? Like most financial tweaks, the customer never truly wins. The margins to get reshuffled upward. Do you see any upside to this kind of policy, or is it just extending the illusion of affordability another 20 years longer? All right, this this person had a lot to just throw out there, and make some pretty wild claims, but let's dive into it. Talk about it. First, um, I'll tell you what won't happen with a 50-year mortgage is that the housing prices will be inflated. Under no circumstances, because somebody would be getting a 50-year mortgage, all of a sudden they'd be paying more for a house. That's just ridiculous. That's not how things work. The seller, what the seller sells his house for, and what the buyer does for a mortgage. That's like saying in this rationalization, if they get a 15-year loan, they would deduct homes from the seller's price. I mean, it's just not feasible. I don't know where they come up with that one at. One point, meanwhile, no one even holds a 30-year loan until maturity anymore. They refinance or sell within 7 to 12 years. So lifetime interest numbers are theoretical. I see that point. That is a valid point. What this really does is transfer perceived affordability into pricing power for the middlemen, brokers, agents. That's really not who take percentages off a non-bloated base. This person just really doesn't understand how the real estate or mortgages work, either one. Normally, somebody would get it wrong just on one side, but I think he's wrong on both here. I will say that, yeah, who wins in a 50-year mortgage? The lender. The interest on a 50-year mortgage is terrible. I'm not saying this is a good idea. I'm just saying these two facts, like it's going to affect the home price and the perceived affordability. That's not a such word. The illusion of affordability. You're either going to afford it or you're not. There's no illusion about it. Like most financial tweaks, the customer never truly wins. The margins just get reshuffled upward. There's this 50-year mortgage is a slippery slope here. I'm going to be the first to say. Do you see any kind of upside to this policy, or is it just extending the illusion of affordability another 20 years longer. Um, man, the 50-year mortgage. Before we jump in comments, I'll give my quick thoughts on it here. This is it's not right for everybody. Um, the 50-year mortgage. I will say that the reason I don't like it is I'm fairly conservative, and if I was to get, when you get a 30-year loan, the worst part about a 30-year loan is the first few years of it, right? I think once you get to about a 15-year term, you start paying more principal than you do interest. And on a 30-year, you're going to be in that for 15 years. You're going to be in a very bad period, actually, for 25 years until you get the amortization down. However, I could see is this a circumstance where this gets somebody into the house 10 years earlier, okay, and although they don't pay it down, you still are planting your flag here, okay? This is an extreme. This is an attempt. It would be my last option to use to get into a home, and in my opinion, what you're hoping for is appreciation. Okay, and what it also does, it would stop obviously your rent if you're in an area where rent is skyrocketing, like ours. But the interest on this thing would be awful, and hopefully if you have to do the 50-year mortgage, maybe in 3 or 4 or 5 years you could get out into a regular mortgage, or maybe even a 20-year mortgage or something like that. Did that comment pop up there, Andy? Let's see here. Couldn't it be okay if you're smart about it, pay more towards principal once you can afford it? Also, refi once rates come down enough to make sense. 1,000,000%, 1,000,000%. Yeah, it's just not everybody does that. When you're talking about a savvy buyer or somebody that's going to handle this loan properly, that's exactly how you beat it. Is you pay it off early, you refinance it. So if you're in a situation where this may be your only chance to afford that, but just have a plan to get out of it. Like it's not going to balloon or anything like that, but paying 50 years of interest is just too much. I think you've got to get out of it. However, you could be in a situation where if this is your only way, this is better than sitting on the sidelines and missing out on, several years of equity. That's, but you got to be careful. This is not for everybody. I hope I'm not talking out of both sides of my head here, but it's there wasn't a podcast going on when the 30-year mortgage hit after World War II, and everybody said the same thing about 30-year mortgages as that they're going to say about 50-year mortgages. But 50 is a long time. 50 is a long time, and like I said, when I would support it, if it would get the buyer to plant their flag, and they definitely knew to try to get out of this within 4 or 5 years if they can. So let's. You got anything to add before we jump into the comments here?
The only thing that I was thinking about as you were talking about that was it's a really smart way to just it provides another tool for people to use. Simple as that. Just like you said, maybe early introduction gets you started to plant that flag just as soon as you have, but as long as you have a plan to get out of it. So that's all I would add. It's just a tool.
Yeah, and when I say plant the flag, means get on the home ownership ladder. Go ahead and get your first home and start building some equity, because I truly believe it's Americans, anybody here's best way to to make a lot of money, through owning something.
Yeah, Philip's in town.
Fill up. let's see here. Yeah, I'm on the wrong comment section here. All right. Do we got another comment? We're
No, I was
you
just
want me? Yeah, keep wages down and huge amount of interest. Yes. Yeah.
Phillips.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know about the wages, but the good thing about today's mortgages, you don't owe all that interest. You only owe the month that you live there, so you can get out of it. But yes, a 50-year mortgage. I ran the numbers on this. A 50-year mortgage, you're almost going to pay double. Like it's a $300,000. You're going to pay 700 and something thousand in interest, I believe, is
Damn.
um, yeah. So that's what I'm saying.
Whew.
The only way I can see it work is if you have no other way to get on the home ownership track. All right, so we jumped into the comments, and I was a little surprised here. They started one comment led this thing off about a car, and there was 400 comments about car interest. All the way down to my 2013 Dodge Avenger is still going very strong. Um,
I'm lost. I'm lost.
I mean, they went on about it was a mortgage post, and they went off about all the way down to MNPC. Somebody dove in and put called the 50-year loan pretty much interest only loan by another name, particularly for the huge portion of people that sell or refi during the first 10 years. And that's exactly true. You're going to pay a lot of interest on a 50-year mortgage.
Jesus.
You're going to pay a lot of interest on a 30-year mortgage. But it's almost like interest only. Going down yeah, also many interesting points to consider, and there's already a wall of text that I've written. One more dimensions is considering what the ramifications to the market would be if it became the norm rather than an exception for people actually stay in the same home for 30 or 50 years. Right. Right now, we're already seeing that. It's the boomers have been blamed for not selling their houses fast enough. Which is funny. It's like, oh,
Guilty.
you should move. You got a bunch of equity. Give us your house. But it's this person said one relevant inquiry might be whether a 50-year mortgage could contribute to expanding availability of new housing, with making a longer-term mortgage available for the first owner of a home. Maybe. And then they start talking about if they mandate zero down, so the down payment goes towards the points to bring the rate down to 15-year. So I think that could work. Basically, they're not going to, in my opinion, they're not going to come up with a zero down 50-year mortgage. If you're looking to zero down, you got to get it out of the conventional space. We're not going to see that. I could be wrong, but they don't have one now at 30 years, so I don't know why they would create one at 50 years. Here's a guy that said if you bought a $300,000 house with a $200,000 down payment, you would pay $636 in interest over the course of the loan. I don't know. I'd have to run the math on that because that's only $100,000. I don't know if you'd pay $636. So
50-year-old idea a teenager would come up with.
yeah. I can't even imagine what a 300,000 house would look like in 1975. What would the house be worth now? My client paid $270 at the beach in the 70s, now worth $8 million. So these are the kind of stories that I will only see the 50-year term working, meaning it got me into something and I was able to get out of it. And then, like I said, if you can earn, say if it got you into a $400,000 house and it earned, 3% interest or appreciation was 3%, that's $12,000 the first year um, of equity. And of course, if you did that over several years, you're going to end up with a nice chunk of money you wouldn't have had, and just almost consider this like an interest only loan, and know you got to get out of it. So it's, and Andy, I don't like it. I hope my kid wouldn't be in a position to do this, right? So he could do like a 30-year mortgage or whatever. But if it was the only option, it looks like it's going to be if it comes out with Fannie and Freddie, it's going to be a safe, meaning it's not going to be adjustable. It's not going to be interest only. So it may be a good option to get, for somebody who actually, who needs it, doesn't have a lot of, whatever it's the people's area that they live in that's causing this issue. Everybody, wants to live in a decent area, and these affordable areas are just off the charts. So there's the riff.
Got it. That's good stuff. Okay, can I chip into that topic a little
Please.
bit? Okay, it was something that Wendy or Phil, I don't know who's running that account today, but it's what do you say about? Because I forgot about this, dropping the credit score. What is up with that?
What's going on with dropping the credit scores and a 50-year loan? Look out.
Did they change the criteria on credit scores?
No, not. I think this is the proposal. Like, this has come out with Trump has told Fannie and Freddie something about a 50-year mortgage. And so so everybody, the 50-year mortgages topic has come up now. And I think what she's saying is, well, I don't know if that was Wendy or Philip.
But I heard on the news the other day that the credit has been adjusted. What is it, Phil? What is it, Wendy? Did they eliminate credit? That can't be. Did they reduce the required credit? What was I'm tempted to search that.
Yeah, you remember our loan level pricing adjustments?
Yes, yes.
That chart has not changed. If he's talking, I think it's in talks, kind of like this 50-year mortgage, is they're just talking about ways to help the affordability, is like lowering credit scores and things like that. But I haven't heard it specifically with any products, tied to any products or anything like that. It was basically, all around that affordability issue is what I've heard about the credit scores.
It says that changes seem to be coming. It's much too verbose for me to be able to cover that. Can't take the time to read that. It looks like some changes they're just what you're talking about. It's a proposal on that. But I want to play devil's advocate because I probably got the wrong picture of this 50-year loan stuff. Because people talk about, at least the people that are arguing, not you, but the people that are panicking, kind of, acting like it's a big deal, which it might be, is they're talking about it costs you $1 million to pay back a $400,000 loan over the course of 50 years. Well, I don't know what you have found, and we were talking about this before. What's the average turnaround for somebody in a house? 5 to 7 years, maybe?
It's longer now, but right, if you was looking at, just say if it was 8 or 9 years now, it used to be around 7, but I think it's closer to 8 or 9 now.
In my opinion, you can take that $1 million and just throw it out the window because that doesn't matter. Here's my next question, and I don't know the answer, and I need to ask you. When were FHA loans started? When did that start? Do you have any clue? 80s, 70s, 90s?
Yeah, I think it was early 70s.
Okay. And before that, it was just like, well, lower prices. And of course, interest rate in the 80s was 17% or something like that. But wasn't the idea, this is where I'm going to dig in a little bit because I'm the sales guy, remember? Back then, didn't they create FHA loans and stuff to make it more affordable for people so that they could purchase homes? Wasn't that the purpose?
1,000,000%, yes. Your regular conventional loan was a 20% down product, was a, and then as time went on, things have opened up to things like, we've progressed with FHA, opened up to lower credit scores, lower down payments, and then, and conventionals followed suit years later, years and years later, like 2000s.
At 625. So Philip, Wendy, I wish you'd tell us who it is. Wendy and Phil. Wendy, Phil. It'd be Phil. The 625 is no longer. Okay. Huh. That's interesting. And I think that Angie has got is the point that I'm trying to make. That I see this as, and again, I say this with all due respect to salespeople. I'm the guy that's selling the house out there. If the FHA loan was created to make it possible or make it easier, let's use that terminology, for somebody to buy a house versus the way it was existing, all they did was they created a tool that made it easier for somebody to begin the home, your term was perfect, the home ownership ladder. Is that a fair argument?
Absolutely.
Okay. Then why can't this be seen, just the consideration of it, as it's the same thing? It's the 50-year loan. It sucks. Don't do it forever. That's the wrong play. But like you've said, if it's used strategically, that it may be helping people get in sooner to get in that ownership ladder. But this is the risk. This is exactly what the risk is. If they drop the credit scores, they're more irresponsible people. And I know what that means. Sometimes you get caught. You get kind of stuck between a rock and a hard spot. People are going to go for the 50-year loan. When people stop using it responsibly is when the trouble they would get in trouble, really, is all it is.
Yeah, the credit score thing it's already put in place, like for these loans. Like if you want to do a 600 credit score on a conventional loan or a 620, say, you can do it. It's not saying you can't do that. What happens is you go to that loan level pricing adjustment matrix and you're hit with 3 points because your credit score is a 600. Now your rate goes from 6% to 8.5%, and it's no longer a product. And so we say, okay, well, FHA doesn't penalize you for a 620 score, so I can get you 5.75 FHA, or I can get you 8.5 conventional. And then you have to deal with mortgage insurance on conventional. Conventional, if your credit score is really good, you may get a better price than FHA, like at 0.55% is your FHA factor. And you could get a lower one with conventional if your credit score is high and you've got any kind of a down payment. But if your credit score is low and you're trying to go conventional, your MI, your mortgage insurance is going to be off the charts on top of your regular rate being off the charts. So you won't even, the 50 years not even going to be a option for like bad credit score. Like in my opinion, when this thing comes out, if it fits all the other conventional guides, which I wouldn't say they'd have its own loan level pricing adjustment matrix, it's going to fit in with the rest of conventional products, and it's going to be, like if it's a second home, you're going to have a big add-on to it. If your credit's bad, you're going to have a big add-on to it, and that just basically kicks you out of that product.
Do you ever see a day when, I don't know, is there a difference between PMI and MIP? Is there a difference between
No,
those two?
the MIP, if you're talking monthly mortgage insurance
Yeah,
on
yeah.
FHA and conventional, they're both the same to me. I mean, one goes to the government, one goes to a private company.
That's always.
Um, and then
Do you?
FHA has it up front too. They have a 1.75% charge up front too. So you have to factor that in. But a lot of times, unless it's like 680, or depending on what the score is, you just compare the both of them with conventional. But see, I just don't see the 50-year becoming that bad product. Like, I don't see it becoming, oh, you can't afford anything else, let's go to the 50.
Mhm.
I think you're going to have to be decently qualified to get like a regular conventional mortgage to get into the 50.
That is a really good point, and it's the subtext of my whole thing, is because I think what what you guys have done, meaning the lenders, and I mean all y'all, what you have done is you took a really messy situation, which I will never forget because I went through it, and you have made it right. I mean, the lenders, in my opinion, in America, I doff my chateau because I swear to God, that was a heavy lift and you did it. And this 50-year loan, notwithstanding good, bad, or indifferent, the quality of buyer that comes in there, I think, is going to be just as high. They just can't afford as much, I mean, so what? I mean, how many, like on car loans, what are they stretching it out to? 10-year loans? I'm sure there is.
Yeah, well, I seen them. They were in the comment section. They were talking about some people didn't even know there were 72-month car loans, and the car. I still go back to this: the car loans, cell phone bills, and I know cell phone bills is not like a credit card bill. You have to have it, but everybody has one. They're probably paying close to $200 a month for it, and by the time you add that and student loan debt, people are coming out of college like, you know, I just remember thinking when I was that young, it was like I wanted no debt. Like to buy my first house, kind of my thing was I had to have no debt or else I couldn't afford anything. Like, and so, but people are coming out with $600 car payments. They're coming out with $200, $300, $400 student loan payments. And then and then you got your regular stuff like your phone. I mean, so they're starting out at $1,000 before they ever. And I'm like, that was more than my first house payment. Um, and it's just totally different. I'm like, it's we're having to come up with 50-year mortgages because our society thinks that you've got to have all this stuff. It's just normal to have car debt, student loan debt, and everything else.
And what I want to remind everybody that's watching is because our numbers are going up, so I'm really proud of that. What Rodney's talking about here, and if we're not judging anybody, but he gets to see what goes on as a sampling across the board. That's today's buyer. That's an $800 car payment is like standard normal. It seems like and not for me, but Jesus.
I remember a day when we seen an $800 car payment. We looked it up and seen where it was financed with because we want to see if it was a Porsche, if it was a Lamborghini. I mean, it was always, you know what I'm saying. But now
it's a Ford Edge.
It's a GMC. It's a $100,000 pickup truck.
Yeah, Wagoneers cost you $100,000. I think that to point to and to kind of wrap it up. What a great time today. Thank you, Rodney, so much. What they're trying to do, meaning the powers that be, the administration, all of these guys, is in order for us to survive this real estate situation, they got to get money to start moving again because there's just not as much money moving as there usually is. And that's, tax revenue, it's all the rest of it. And so this it's interesting that whoever floated this idea, what a conversation it started, That in itself is pretty good marketing. I'll finish with this thought, if I may. But thank you, number one, for I'm such a privilege to talk to you every week, Rodney. You're so smart. Great Rodney's riff. That was just excellent, and thanks for letting me chime in on that. But here's my last thought for the day, if I can. We're talking about the profile of buyers and sellers. And, you know, when these companies are, this is a parting shot, when companies like Realtor.com and National Association of Realtors, they have an advertising budget of millions. And they had to change. What they did was, this is the new ad that they put together of first, what they consider to be first-time buyers, was this older couple. And they changed it from what you would expect of, you know, a younger couple with, she's got a little baby and stuff. And they changed the marketing because it's a magazine kind of a thing. This older couple in their they were in their 50s, and they were talking about that, how they had to, in order to communicate with the market, that's what they had to do, is put grandma and grandpa on there for first-time home buyers. So, geez Louise.
Yeah,
what a good day.
I revolt over that too, because you know, I see myself with this. I know I'm old. I see myself with this beard, and I see people who look like me on that ad, and I'm like, I don't want to see that. Get the younger people back on there. It's ridiculous.
And we'll know that the market.
I don't think I'm that way, but I know I look that way. But I don't want to see myself on that ad. Get some younger people back on that ad.
And that's when we'll know the marketing has changed, when a first-time buyer looks like the younger crowd again. God,
Yeah.
Rodney, thank you very much. Any final thoughts?
Glad to see Philip and Angie here today. A lot of good conversation, and happy Veterans Day today.
That's right.
Today's our Veterans Day, so appreciate all the veterans for their service.
Absolutely. And just one more note, that for anybody that I've published my course on YouTube for free about real estate. The link is right there if you care. And if you want to share it with somebody, that's okay too. Again, it's 100% free. It's just for you. Rodney, thank you very much. See you next week. Next Tuesday, good? Okay, buddy. See ya. Forgot my button.